We begin this chapter with our boys playing with the kids in the open field, passing around a ball as though they were playing football. After spending so much time having fun with the kids, the boys were all sweaty and tired. Tutor wipes the sweat off his forehead, smiling as he couldn't believe that this was the last day of their volunteering. Sancho agrees, saying that time sure flies when you're having fun. Seeing that this was the last day they had with the kids, the three of them decided to go all out, meaning that they were going to play until they didn't have any energy left. As the three of them pumped themselves up, Vikir was seen sitting at the same tree, alongside Perry, who was beside him. As she sat beside Vikir, her face was flushed. She even takes a peek at him, holding onto what looks like flowers in her hand. She continues to gaze at Vikir, who was mindlessly staring at nothing. Picking up the courage, she goes over to his side and lightly tosses a crown made up of flowers onto Vikir's head, which surprises him. He takes a peek at it, wondering if it was really a flower crown that she had given him, but Perry starts to shake her arms in the air the moment he says it. This time, she took one of his hands and pulled it closer to her. Instead of speaking, Perry started to write onto Vikir's hand, telling him that what she had given him was a sign of gratitude. She continues on, writing on his palm in order to speak to him. Perry thanks Vikir for always being with her during his time as a volunteer, and for finding the ball she had mistakenly dropped into the estuary from the time before. Feeling the message behind the words she wrote on his palm, Vikir tells her that his actions were nothing, and that he simply liked sitting here with her. Before she continued to write, Perry paused for a moment. Thinking about her next message, she continues to write, this time lightly. With a curious and shy look on her face this time, she looks up to Vikir, writing on his palm, the words, "Can we meet again?" Upon feeling the message on his palm, Vikir started to recall the memory with Dolores, who tells him about Perry's history, where everyone who had gotten close to her would one day stop visiting her due to their busy schedules. This resulted in Perry being tired from getting attached to people in such a short time, making her silent the way she was now. Looking at her, Vikir knew that while he was out hunting the demons, he would need to prepare himself for death all the time, so he couldn't promise her that he would come back, as death was always near him. But even though he knew that, seeing this precious child, our boy told her that they would meet again. Hearing those words, Perry's eyes started to light up with joy once again. Vikir, sincerely, promises her that he would come here if there's a tomorrow for him. Perry started to smile the widest she had ever done upon hearing those words from him. And so, she writes on his palm for the final time, that she would wait for her older brother. Feeling the message for the last time, Vikir corrects Perry, telling her to call him uncle instead of older brother. The scene then changes to the Indulgentia Orphanage Great Hall. Quilty was speaking to everyone, who turned out to be crying, telling them that the children who have been separated from their parents and are now living here, the time they had spent with them was nothing short of priceless. Through this experience, they were able to feel what it was like having a parent, and were able to fill the void in their hearts. He continues to give his speech, telling the volunteers that if the children grow up to be great people, then it would all be thanks to them. Ending off the speech, he tells them about the love that they were able to receive from the children these past 10 days, and hopes that they would share them with children. As he ended the speech, another member of the orphanage brought out a huge donation box on wheels. PG started to wail loudly as Vikir could see that Quilty had actually shown up on the last day of their volunteering. As he listened to his speech, our boy couldn't believe that he was talking about kindness with that demonic mouth of his. Quilty was skillfully triggering the feelings of respect and debt that they feel towards their parents, and asking for cash donations from these young volunteers. Vikir could also spot that he had brought all 4 of his bodyguards, which made ambushing him a bit of an annoying task. With his eyes glowing slightly red, even with the added difficulty of the bodyguards, Vikir couldn't let the demon do as he pleases anymore. After all preparations were done. As planned, he was going to hunt the elite corpse today. Soon enough, massive amounts of gold coins were given. The volunteers were queuing up behind one another, donating as much gold as they could. While they waited in line, Vikir stood out alone as Sinclair walked towards him. She questions our boy on why he wasn't donating, so he simply tells her that he didn't have any money. Sinclair was surprised to hear that an academy student didn't have money with him, but in truth, Vikir just didn't want to give money to a demon. But what piqued his interest was the fact that Sinclair had called him brother. She reminded him that she had come up with a way to address him, which Vikir seems fine with as he tells her to do whatever she wants. Moving on from that, Sinclair points out to him that he was being cold. Since they were wealthy, they should help the children. But Vikir replies back that parents are ultimately unnecessary. He continues to tell her that children may need help from their parents during their childhood, but it is up to one's personal strength in how they will tackle the world, leaving Sinclair speechless as she stares at him. In response to his depressing words, Sinclair holds onto his hand, telling him that his life must have been hard. So she offers Vikir a chance to come over to her house and play, and even eat with her family during the break or public holiday. After giving him those choices, Sinclair leaves our boy behind, telling him that she was going to the children and to free up some time once they were done volunteering. As soon as she left, Vikir looked at his hand, thinking about how strange she was as a person. According to his knowledge, Sinclair was the identity she submitted to the academy as a disguise. Before his regression, she was the most extraordinary out of the Ice Corps and always placed first in both theory and practicals for 4 years straight. But then, she disappeared after graduation and never showed herself again. And so, Quilty announces after the donation that now is the time for the children of the orphanage to give thanks to their parents for the past 10 days. Tudor cried as he hugged the kid he took care of, promising the little one that until he became a great hero, he was going to come here every week, even after he became a great hero. Sancho was on his knees, telling the kid that in the north, the children are considered most precious, as they are the future. Reminding the little boy that the empire's future was on his shoulders and that he should do well in life. PG started to wail once again, telling the children that had gathered around him that he was definitely coming back, and that he would also bring lots of yummy food for them. Even Bianca couldn't help but cry a bit as she held the little girl's head. She felt that these past 10 days were both long and short at the same time, and couldn't believe that she herself had gotten attached to the kids this much. As the volunteers started to be with their kids, Vikir stood alone at the back, silently watching everyone. He turns to his right to check and then his left. Even Dolores was there, comforting the children by rubbing their heads. Vikir sneaks up behind her and calls out her name, startling the Saintess. As she turns to look at him, her face becomes flushed with red. As she keeps seeing the memory of him being shirtless and covered in dirty water after rescuing the ball from the murky waters of the estuary from which it fell in, she wonders why she keeps thinking of that day as Vikir tells her that he had a question for her. It was about Perry. He wondered if she had seen her around lately. Thinking about it, Dolores looks around, realizing that she hasn't seen Perry here yet but was sure that the last time she saw her was this morning. Hearing that bit of information, a sudden feeling of dread overcame Vikir as he realized something. Wasting no time at all, he turns to leave as Dolores chases after him. Thinking about that sweet girl not being here, Vikir's bloodhound senses started to activate. He spots Quilty from afar, who wears a creepy and demonic smile on his face. Seeing that, fully unleashed the bloodhound within Vikir, as he stares back at the demon, with bloodlust in his eyes. Soon enough, night arrives in the city. As the boys were deep asleep, crying about their goodbyes to the kids. Vikir's bed was empty. We then turned to another building, part of the Indulgentia Orphanage Children's Dormitory, the 4th building. Inside it, the 4 bodyguards of Quilty were present, all wearing their weapons. Upon reaching a specific area, they started to part ways. Each of them heading alone in their own paths. We now see Affetto all alone, as he continues his surveying of the area. Only darkness remains behind him. Out of the darkness, a bloodhound appears, its eyes still glowing bright red even though it was hidden underneath a mask. Affetto immediately turns around, sensing something but spots nothing at all. As he continues to stare at the empty hallway, a voice appears in front of him, telling him that he had a question. The bloodhound appears right in front of Affetto without him even realizing it. Vikir questions the demon on where the children who were locked up for the purpose of being the elite demon's food supply were kept hidden, but Affetto didn't even respond with words but took action instead. He immediately swung his massive mace weapon to our boy. But before the attack could land on him, Vikir manages to separate his head from his body within a split second. Holding onto Affetto's head, Vikir found it funny that he asked a question to someone who can't talk. Unleashing his own demonic sword, Beelzebub, Vikir reveals that this time, there was no time for him to play with these demons as it was hunting time for the bloodhound.